So let's see. Some of you are new, I suspect. No, not really. Who's a TotoFit AI, by the way? Can anyone raise their hand? If they're TotoFit? No, no TotoFit. Okay. Yeah, but someone has to put it in here. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who TotoFit is. Yeah. Okay. Well, if no, I'm gonna kick them out. Yeah. If no one's claiming it, I'm gonna remove them. All right. Sorry, TotoFit. You'll have to go to YouTube for this. Okay, so we can begin. These are long sit sessions, so we talk for an hour first, and or we do Q&A, or there's a particular subject, and then we just sit for 3 hours. So that's how that goes. People usually come in, the next 15 minutes, but we'll get started. And you're welcome to leave at any time. So if you only have 2 hours, or you don't want to do the full sit, by no means do you need to. So if you want to leave 30 minutes after the talk, or an hour after the talk, so just an hour of meditation, this is totally okay. So all right, we can begin with questions. You could raise your hand, or just put the question in the comment box. In the meantime, I'll begin, actually. I was talking with a student this morning about stages of the path, or what exactly is happening in the process of awakening. What really is this thing that we're calling awakening, or non-duality? And those of you that have sat with me before, you've heard all of my answers to these kinds of questions. But the process of awakening is really just the process of cessation. So it's just the falling away of conventions and misperceptions. It's the falling away of attachments, attachments and clinging to conditions, to ideas. It's really just the falling away. So the role of the teacher, when you meet a teacher, the sign that you've met a genuine one is that there is a process of falling away that is initiated, a process of cessation that is initiated. The cessation that the teacher has gone through, the falling away that person has gone through, is transmitted to the student. It radiates, it resonates, it emanates from them. And that's the reason we sit with teachers. If that effect was not there, or is not there, then really the relationship or the contact is intellectual. It's at the surface level. So in the yoga traditions, they often differentiate between the teacher and the master. So the teacher conveys all the book knowledge. He teaches you all the phases and the limbs of yoga and all the ins and outs of sadhana and how to do the practices and all the theoretical knowledge. And that's the role of the teacher. Teacher tells you what to do and what not to do in that case, or generally in that regard. And the guru does nothing. The teacher's very serious, but the guru just like sits around and eats vegetables and says things. So this is how Ram Dass described Neem Karoli Baba. When he was in India, he had a teacher who taught him everything with yoga and all the intellectual knowledge. But Neem Karoli Baba would just lay around and like pat him on the head and smile and laugh and eat food and stick food in his mouth. And that was that. So the recording stopped from the Toto person. So, but this is already this is going to YouTube, and yeah, this is going to YouTube through the laptop over here. Yeah, so we're good. Yeah, so the transmission or that sense of falling away that you get doesn't come from book knowledge. It doesn't come from what was learned at the intellectual level. It comes from the cessation, the void or the fullness, whatever it is that is the primary characteristic of the awakening for that teacher. That state is what you brush up against. That realization is what you make contact with. So if you notice all the different teachers, they have like a different signature. Some of them, they talk a lot about unity consciousness and love and service, and that is what's emanating from them. And others talk about dissolution, disidentification, the abyss, emptiness, non-arising, and that's what's emanating from them. The progression is pretty simple. In the beginning, you start as a person and you're given a meditation technique or a meditation practice, a mantra, or some kind of method. And you work with the practice for many months or many years or many weeks, it depends. And gradually, the identification as a person becomes thinner and thinner through the release that is possible with the method and through the contact with awakening itself. So the teacher, the external teacher, opens or allows for an internal process where you meet the teacher within. And I've given there's a video where I talk about this called it's titled "Presence is the Master." So the state of awakening, the mystery of all of this itself is the teacher, and the methods just allow one to orient towards that, to begin to see this and immediacy and whatever it is you think and do. So initially you begin as a person and you're given a method, and eventually you discover awareness. You discover presence. You have a recognition of presence and consciousness. In your life as a person, all that is known is thought, feeling, memory, the personality, narrative, and for the most part, you're locked into your own desires and drives, and most of your life is really just the fulfillment of um, an endless stream of cravings and wants. You want this, you get pulled in that direction. You want that, you get pulled in that direction. As I put it before, you experience some things, so you feel some things. And based on those feelings, you think some things. And based on those thoughts, you feel some more things. And then you do some more things. And you have some more experiences. And then you feel some more things. And you think some more things. And you do some more things. And then you die. That's your life. So this is the conventional existence, the conventional reality, what the yoga and mystic teachings called the reality of the mundane. Your whole existence is just space-time affairs and various things that you want to get done or need to get done. But the super mundane, or what's considered the transcendent, even though it doesn't really exist in the way it's presented, is that the need and the fixation on events and time and experiences begins to cease. So the personality structure and the narrative that is locked into time and into becoming and into changing and into growth and unfolding and understanding, this gradually begins to fall away. You begin as a person and then you shift to identification as awareness or presence. So you can look at the various spiritual teachings and notice this progression or listen to them. In many teachings, there's a identification with presence. So it's often described as you are presence. So you are that, or you are this. And even I use it. I use these designations as well. So you've gone from within time, within the narrative, to now there's an aspect of there's an awakening to this presence that seems to be unaffected by what appears and by what happens. So certain books like The Power of Now emphasize exactly this, that you are not what you think and feel, but you're the witness of what you think and feel. You're that which knows or that which observes what is thought and what is felt. So when there's a shift to this, there's space now from the suffering that is incessant and that is so intertwined with the prison of thought and of feeling. So now with this new form of identification, or this new shift in identification, there's an immense sense of freedom that now your locus of orientation is no longer what is thought and what is felt. So now you're the knower. And in many approaches and in many systems, it ends there. The knower doesn't suffer. The self doesn't suffer, as Ramana Maharshi would put it. Now, awakening isn't a monolith. It's multidimensional. It's like a diamond or a gem. And different teachers and teachings emphasize various facets or various faces of this gem. So, from identification with the knower or from identification with awareness, there can begin to be a shift away from identification and identity altogether. So you go from person to awareness to you begin to lose words. So the locus of experience of uh, this sense or this perception of I am, this knowing that I am, when you are a person, when you're a personality, you're convinced I am me. I am what I think, I am what I feel. Descartes, I think, therefore I am. I am what I remember. I am my history. I am my family's name. I am my occupation. I am my actions. That's all the conventional. Then you shift to I am this awareness. So now you're not any of those things, and you are the presence. I am presence. The next phase is that the I am, which is claiming the presence, the identification with the presence, falls away. So now there's no longer the sense that I am presence, there's just presence. No longer as a witness, but just as this inner spaciousness, this inner knowingness that doesn't have a me or an I attributed to it. Later, that inner knowingness, that inner space of presence, which is felt to be the core of what you are, or the core of your experience, that inner space collapses. It crumbles. And when it crumbles, the dualistic split between the knower and the known ends permanently. So when that inner space no longer exists, there cannot be an inner or an outer anymore. It is the inner life, the existence of the inner life, of the inner knowing itself. It's that space of knowing. Uh, that space itself is a split. It's a very subtle form of dualism. And when this inner dimension of knowingness or presence collapses, presence then appears as everything. You go from presence knowing things, or being under the impression that presence is observing things, to the direct, undeniable, visceral sense and experience that presence and what appears are the same thing. Presence / appearances. It's a Zen quote that says, suddenly your mind is discovered all at once and everything arises as illumination. You say, everything arises as illumination. What does that mean? It means the awakening or the awakeness that was localized to this inner space, to this inner dimension, Now that inner spaciousness collapses, that awakeness, that illumination appears as everything. And it's at that point that this foreground background split, uh, the split between the inner and the outer, is permanently resolved. Yeah, so some people, they don't like the word permanent. What does permanent mean? It means that you are never able to return to your former identifications. You're never able to go back to how things were before. So in many of my talks, you hear me talk about, the cliff and the abyss, and taking the leap, and the intensity of the leap, the fear of the cliff and the abyss is in direct proportion to how big the sense of self you're gonna lose is. So this is why meditation practice is very important, and why I emphasize it so much. A lot of the things that many of you are going through are things that used to happen in the containers within the container of a monastery or a tribe, you know? Like, you would go through years of training, years of preparation before you'd even have to face the cliff. Before you'd even get on the road to the cliff. But with the kinds of things that are accessible today, everything's decentralized. Access to information is so immediate. People are just turning on apps and then suddenly they're at the edge of the cliff. So it's a different world, and adaptation is a necessity. And correct understanding in the sense of knowing the dynamics of this process and how it works and what it entails. When the inner dimension of the knower collapses and the separation between knower and known is completely absolved and resolved, even deeper disidentification sets in, even deeper emptying, holographic emptying. Now that there's um, no true sense of a subject, there's only this, right? Many teachers use the word this or here, or even I say reality. There's just this. When we look at this, what do we find? The only reality the only reality that is known, that is experienced, is what you are hearing, what you are seeing, what you are feeling, what you're thinking, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, and the various constituents of mental factors. Intention or attention may be present or not. But notice how you can't stop the perception of the body. If I tell you to stop seeing, you can't stop seeing, even if you close your eyes. The seeing is continuous. If I tell you to stop hearing, you can't stop hearing. The hearing is continuous. If I tell you to stop perceiving the body, you can't stop perceiving the body. The body perception is continuous. The various fields of experience are uninterrupted, continuous, and immaculate in their nature. So now that there's just this, and that every aspect of this is awake, is illuminated, you can see how far this is from the conventional personality life, how far this is from the narrative. That you experience what you eat as illumination, that you experience brushing your teeth as illumination, that the sensations of your eyes blinking are illumination, are awakeness, pure and total awakeness. The presence, which was previously only localized to the inner knower, to the inner dimension, is now the entirety of the experiential field. And you're suffused, you're drenched in this illumination. It never ends. The fan blowing is meditating. This is not the perception of an ordinary person, but this is what begins to arise as your reality. Sorry for the the sprinkler, or sorry, the hose. It should pass in a couple minutes. So, since now the foreground of experience is all that remains, or experience, reality is all that remains, you hear many of the statements I've made. There's just reality, there's just this, there's just here. There's just seeing, there's just hearing, there's just thinking. This is the Buddhist statement. In seeing, there is only what is seen. In hearing, there is only what is heard. In feeling, there's only what is felt. In cognizing, there's only what is cognized, or in other words, in thinking, there's only what is thought. Tasting, smelling, there's only what is tasted and only what is smelled. So this is referring to, that is referring to exactly this. And then the Bahiya discourse goes on to say, this being so, Bahiya, you're neither here nor there, neither in this world nor the next, nor between the two. This alone is the end of suffering. So it means that when identification has ended and has collapsed, and there's only this, then the self which suffers is no longer there. It's just known as a thought, just known as a feeling. Your whole self that is attached to your memories and perceptions is really just thought and feeling. You remember who you are, and you have the feeling of your specific personality in time. If you were to be in another person's consciousness, theoretically, you'd be able to distinguish and differentiate between the two. You'd know yourself and you'd know them. That signature of your personality, the feel of your personality, is so central to what it means to be a person, what it means to be an entity. So in seeing, there's only the seen, and hearing, there's only the heard. It's another way of saying there's just this. It's just reality. Then even further emptying occurs. Just when you thought it couldn't possibly get more empty, it does. Yeah. It goes from seeing there's only the seen, to the emptying of the seen, the heard, the felt, the cognized themselves. So this here reality experience becomes emptied. And then you arrive at the Heart Sutra. There are no eyes. There is no body. There there is no tongue, no ears, no mind, no realm of sight, no realm of mind, no consciousness, no path, no cessation, no ignorance, no cessation of ignorance. That means that that reality becomes so emptied that although it is perceived, it's no longer regarded as any attribution that is given to the various areas of experience. So then seeing or the seen becomes no seeing. Hearing or the heard becomes no hearing. Mind and the body becomes no mind and no body. Just like humans have a inner sense for the perception of time, we all have that. We have this invisible sense for time. And you notice when you go into meditation or you've entered a mystical state, that perception of time is altered. A few minutes can feel like an hour, or an hour can feel like a few minutes. This time perception is so critical to navigating physical space. In what I'm describing, there's an inner sense for the presence of objects. There's an inner sense for the here-ness of reality, the reality-ness of reality. The here-ness of what appears. That inner sense vanishes. So the sense that this is here, that this is real, just the sense of this thisness, one day you wake up and it's gone. Poof. Like a flame that's blown out. You've arrived at non-arising, emptiness. So non-arising means the Sanskrit word is anutpada. You go from there's only reality to no reality. There's no such thing as reality. And beyond that, you begin to experience strange things that I'd say are probably not talked about very often. Uh, since the background has collapsed into the foreground, now there's only the foreground, and then the foreground empties. Perception and consciousness is no longer localized. When you're really not here anymore, you begin to have inconceivable experiences, inconceivable states, quantum interpenetration, things that can't be described at all, like omnipresence. So in these this kind of awakening I'm describing, you start to hear statements like the universe is breathing. Or if someone were to ask you, what are you experiencing right now? You just say, like, my eyes are the cosmos, or my hands are everything. Statements that don't make sense. You enter the hall of the Buddhas that is outside time. And you start to hear statements, nonsensical statements, non-local statements from people like Dogen, masters like Dogen, that say things like the mountains are walking, to conventional space-time perception that makes no sense. So that's the summit of the weirdness, right? At least, at least as far as I can talk about. There's probably things, of course, I don't think it ever ends. But those are the shifts, those are the phases, at least that I teach and describe. The one that I spent most of my time in, of course, is the phase of practice that precedes the initial awakening into unity consciousness. So what defines an awakening? What defines an awakening is that there is a fundamental shift in perception and in identity from one stage or from one configuration of awakening to the next. So the initial shift is from I am me to I am presence. That's the initial shift. And that's where I spent 7 years of my practice. 7 long, painful, arduous years. And this particular territory of entry into the Dharma, or entry into awakening, is has its particular difficulties, in the sense that the personality is really beginning to come undone. Once you fall off the edge of the cliff and you begin to experience unity consciousness, or non-duality, you begin to lose the sense of a separate self. It initially happens in blips. It happens in glimpses. And then gradually those glimpses become more consistent. And with the depth of the glimpses and the consistency of the arising, then the shifts in identification are possible. The reason that meditation is necessary for most people is that those openings and those glimpses are generally fleeting. And there needs to be conditions and circumstances that allow for them to be more persistent. And that's really all that a meditation practice is. You don't do anything else when you're meditating. You're not planning, you're not using your mind, you're not trying to pack things apart and figure things out. You're really, resting in receptivity. You're logical, action oriented, time oriented, left brain deactivated, and your non-temporal consciousness from the right brain opens. And the more time you spend in this non-temporal or uh, different form of consciousness. In a way, the further and further uh, you get from the personality and from the narrative. Gradually, at some point, you may get so far that you feel, wow, my personality self is a fiction. It's a dream. It's, it's not real. And at that point, there's this battle, tug of war between the remnants of the personality structure, the remnants of you as as an I, me, mine, and this awakening. So you go through a period of years where you're contending with dissolution, and this is the whole abyss dark night thing that people talk about. It's the fact that what remains doesn't want to let go. And so again and again and again, the intelligence of the awakening, which really all along has been doing itself, is attempting to get us and even guide us to further letting go. There's a very mysterious aspect of this whole process where the right book will appear, or the right teacher will appear, or the right conversation will happen, or the right post will show up on your phone, and it'll guide you, if you follow it, right along into this golden path. But it's not easy. You're asked to surrender many things, let go of many things, give up many things. At least that's how it was for me. So this whole process of letting go, of giving up, of ceasing, of stopping. Notice how at every step of the way it's like you lose more and more and more of yourself. And on one hand it's terrifying, and on the other it's incredible that such a thing is even possible. So the lessons will come, the simulations unfold, the various challenges that are really only purification. And when those purifications are willingly undergone and processed, you generally find that a deeper phase of awakening emerges. Why? Because when you complete that simulation, or you complete that particular challenge, that aspect of your shadow, that difficulty that has been presented to you, your sense of self or your personality thins. You surrender in order to get through it. So yeah, I don't know how many stages or whatever I just delineated, whether it was like 1, 4, 5, 6, or 7, but it's something along those lines. From the personality, from I, me, mine, to the universe is breathing. from I'm suffering so much, when will this end? All the way to what to when you just place your attention here, it feels like a supernova is blasting your head into the universe. From who you were as a person, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young adult, older on into age, to the total annihilation of time. You couldn't see you can't see yourself as a person even if you tried. So, um, on one hand, it's a game. On the other, it's the game that's gonna cost your life. So, yeah, you know, some of you, you're experiencing the pain of dissolution, and it's completely valid. And there's so much fear. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want to let go, but I can't stop choosing this. I don't want to let go, but I can't stop showing up to satsang. I can't stop reading the books. I can't stop doing the meditations. There's something that won't stop. There's something that's going to end me. It's kind of like having a terminal problem. You have a person in your life that some of you know my background. I lost my father to addiction when I was 20, and one of the big lessons there was that um, life was trying to teach me that it wasn't my place to save him, and that some things we just have to accept. Some things can be changed, right? Many things can be changed. Uh, Many conditions you can improve, but some things are in your bones. They're like a shadow you can't escape because you're not supposed to. You run and you run and you run and you run, and me, stop, please. It's too much. Me. And then eventually the enlightenment drive wins, whether in this life or the next, whether now or at some point in time. It's inevitable. Why? Because it's what you really are. You have entered a dream of forgetfulness. and you've been sleeping for a very, very, very long time. But just like how the sunrise is inevitable, awakening is inevitable. You can't sleep forever. And you can only resist the light of reality, the light of Dharma, for so long. My final point here, the essential thing in Theravada Buddhism, for example, is the three characteristics: suffering, no self, and impermanence. At some point in your incarnational trajectory, these three characteristics become so prominent. You begin to know them so well. You've lived so many times. You begin to see the impermanence of your own dreams and affairs. And when you see that impermanence, you see that suffering, you see it and you know it again and again and again and again and again and again. This thing called dispassion begins to arise in your mind, and dispassion acts as a condition for release. The release of what? The release of clinging, the release of craving, the release of self, the release of I, the release of me, the release of mind and mine. And what comes with that release? Freedom. This whole thing is about wanting to be free. So eventually, you lose the wanting for anything and everything, and you realize your own nature as freedom. Everything as illumination, everything as the freedom that you sought, and your mind is no longer anywhere. It's everywhere. And all these parables and mystic phrases and things that people say: shining blackness, dissolution, light of reality. Uh, the sutras are like your teeth. The Buddha is still teaching. The Buddha never died. You enter the realm of the mystical and find yourself as that. All right. So, everyone who's listening on Facebook and YouTube, hello. We're going to start the long meditation now. Let's take a 13-minute break. So let's begin at, what time would it be over there? 7:10. Yeah, let's begin at 7:10. And yeah, that's that. Oh, for everyone here on YouTube and Facebook, I usually end these streams because when the videos are so long, people don't want to watch them. So if you want to join the meditation classes on Zoom with all the people that are here on the phone, just go to my just go to afterawakening.com classes and follow the instructions there. So to everyone here, all of you, see all of you next Wednesday. Sorry, see all of you Sunday. We'll have another live stream Sunday. So thanks for tuning in, all of you.